Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Thursday, November 17th. Ian Cameron, and healthy enough to be back here today on a Thursday, Alex B. Smith. Not 100% yet, but Alex is back good enough to get through what's going to be a massive show today on a massive Thursday card. 13 games, hopefully lucky number 13 in terms of our bets that we're going to be recommending on the show on this massive Thursday slate. But before we get into all of that, Alex, first of all, welcome back. How are you feeling?
Yeah, slowly getting better. That, was kind of dealing with some other issues last week, and then it turned into hitting this bad flu that's been going around lately. And, I know people are kind of hesitant about getting shots and different things, but if I hadn't got my flu shot, according to my doctor, I probably would have had to go to the hospital the last couple of days with how bad I was feeling, not keeping food down and different things. So I'm glad to be feeling well enough to, like I said, just a big card. Didn't want to leave you hanging today for sure. I wanted to be back on the show. But, it still takes some time to get back to full health. So, getting there in the right direction.
Absolutely. That's definitely sometimes it takes a while, and you just got to try to get better bit by bit. And that's what you're trying to do at the moment, getting better little bit by bit as time goes on, no doubt. Before we get into this massive Thursday card, briefly, because it's a huge card, so we're not going to talk too much about last night, but briefly, yeah, the Buffalo Sabres are a pumpkin again, unfortunately. That tough loss again last night against Ottawa. They're struggling mightily. Very disappointing run for them. Much needed win for Ottawa. St. Louis keeps their nice little resurgence going following that losing streak. That's now their fourth straight win. San Jose, Vegas, Colorado, and then Chicago last night getting the victory. Talk about things that started to turn into a pumpkin. How about Soderblom last night for Chicago, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the same old thing, the terrible rebounds. It wasn't all his fault, though. The defensive breakdowns were absolutely horrific. Hawks had a great chance to possibly pull even in that game. Taylor Radish, instead of making the shot and going up top shelf, decided to try to pass to Taves and missed it. The next faceoff draw, basically a 2-on-1 break, and the Blues make it 5-2. So, it's one of those things where, the Hawks are the Hawks right now, right? And Soderblom's not going to be the guy. He's not the answer. I don't know what everybody was talking about 2 weeks ago. But, that's a spot where St. Louis needs to get a win. They've done well against the Hawks in recent years. And, it's just tough to win with those games. And it's so interesting. The crowd, there were 16,000 people in there last night, according to the attendance numbers. But if you were watching that game on TV, it sounded like there was maybe 50 people in the whole place. I mean, it's just absolutely dead. Like I said, it's the worst home ice advantage in the league right now. And the Hawks, I think they've had the lowest attendance. They've had about 11,000, almost 12,000 in that Islanders game at the beginning of the month. So things are only going to get worse for them, But like I said, the other couple games are good. That LA and Edmonton game was really good to watch.
Yeah, it definitely was. And yeah, according to Alex, you couldn't tell if that was the United Center last night based on the atmosphere of the Church of Latter-day Saints. So you just basically couldn't really tell by that. But nevertheless, St. Louis gets the win. And LA Edmonton was the game of the night on TNT. It was the second game of the doubleheader. And I said this on Twitter. LA gets the victory 3-1 last night. If you want a clinical exhibition and display of how to defend the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl for 3 periods, pop a tape or watch a recording of what the Kings did last night. That was just absolutely terrific. I mean, that was smothering defense. That was a line in it. They did play a little trappish last night, the LA Kings, but it worked. I mean, they really made the Oilers try to play a chip and chase, dump and chase game. And I could hear the frustration, Alex and Edzo, during that game on the broadcast saying, these guys got to start chipping the puck in. I mean, they're trying to skate through the middle. They put this fortress in the neutral zone up, no pun intended, the LA Kings, and they basically forced Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, Hyman, and Nugent Hopkins, all of them, to basically chip the puck in, win foot race situations for the puck in the offensive zone, and beat your man and win board battles, win the puck in the forecheck game. And unfortunately, they were still trying to make the pretty plays through the middle of the ice, and the LA Kings were just not willing to allow that last night. And as a result, Edmonton didn't really generate a whole lot. LA capitalized on the chances they got, and the next thing you know, it was a 3-1 victory for LA as they get the win in the first meeting between those two teams after last year's 7-game playoff series. It was just a clinical effort defensively by the LA Kings. Perfection of a road game by them.
It was a great win for LA, and they've hung around well with Edmonton. Remember those teams played to a great 7-game series in the playoffs last year. So you have these matchups, especially in interdivisional matchups, where teams may look better on paper, but for some reason that other team gives them fits. Then the thing with Edmonton, we see this with a lot of offensive teams. I've talked about this with the Hawks over the years. I've talked about this with some of those great Wild teams. When you have a ton of offensive talent, sometimes you tend to get a little too cute, a little too fancy, make the extra pass. I think that there's a bit of complacency sometimes with that top 6 group in Edmonton. They're so skilled and talented. They just kind of feel they can just tic-tac-toe the puck along and get great scoring chances. They don't really work and get those gritty, get into those gritty areas. They did in the postseason last year. That's why they were able to advance as far as they did. But they don't do that in the regular season. They feel like everything's just going to open up and come to them. And that's not the case, especially when you have a team that has played you well over the last couple of years, like the LA Kings. So that's something that you really have to kind of look for and identify. It was a great game last night. I really should have taken LA. I like them as a dog. I passed on it, but that was a game I wanted to sit and really watch. And I implore everyone, at least once or twice a month, when you have a night where you don't bet any games, and I know maybe a lot of people don't have that. I tend to have a lighter card normally, just in general. But
certain specific people really don't have those nights very often.
Exactly. But for those watching, take a night and sometimes don't bet a game. And just really watch a game and try to break it down and break down exactly what you're seeing. Look for how teams are entering the zone. Watch how many passes a team makes. The things that we kind of get lost in the sauce with when we're betting on a game. We're watching our team, right? We're watching our player. We're hoping for goals when we have overs. We want to see more defense when we have unders. Sometimes having a clean slate, especially if you've been on a bit of a slump, and just identifying what you're seeing is a great way to kind of recharge and refocus yourself, during a betting season, a long betting season.
It's a great piece of advice. When you're slumping, you're not seeing the board well enough, in your opinion, you take a step back, just watch some games, take some notes, analyze things, and just say, hey, you know what? Maybe this is something we can use moving forward. Exactly. And maybe it's going to give you definitely a different perspective on things. The Edler hit on McDavid was certainly a talking point. And if I'm Hyman, I understand why I was basically calling him out in the interview, because first of all, it was a very, very, troubling hit. There's no question about that. And Edler and Hyman had a history. In fact, I remember on this show, we talked about the Edler and Hyman play 2 years ago that happened. That kept Hyman out for a few weeks, knocked him out of the lineup for a few, that knee-to-knee collision, which looked like he stuck that knee out a little bit, Edler on him. That was a Vancouver-Toronto game a couple of years ago when Hyman was still with the Leafs. That's why Hyman was so pissed off. It's not just that he hit Connor McDavid, don't touch number 97. It was also that there's a history with Alex Edler of kind of doing this and being involved in these very questionable hits and questionable collisions. Edler to Hyman 2 years ago, and that's why Zach was very upset in the post-game press conference. So I can't fault him. I mean, he was out of the lineup for multiple weeks because of that knee-to-knee with Edler, and he stuck the knee out in that game, Canucks and Leafs 2 years ago. I remember it. So I don't blame him one bit for being a little upset.
No, absolutely. And like you said, it's such a dirty play to do on anybody. Like I said, and especially if you're doing it on a team's top player, a league top player, and Connor McDavid, there's going to be some recall that. But like you said, just the previous history alone, I have no qualms with Hyman, like I said, calling him out at all about that. And that's something that, those are things we need to get out of the game. And that's when we always kind of hark back to the days of the enforcers and stuff. You need someone to answer the bell. If a guy's doing that, if this is a pattern, you can suspend him and fine him all you want, but it's got to be policed with and dealt with on the ice to make sure that he doesn't do that again.
Yeah, exactly. And this is now multiple examples of these dubious little. It's all it takes. Is to just find yourself in a position where in the middle of the ice, you're hitting someone in the head with their head down or sticking out the knee like Edler has done in the past. So it's just those little things that all of a sudden the reputation becomes sullied in terms of, how you conduct yourself out there on the ice. So definitely that was, and certainly if you're an Oiler fan, anytime that kind of thing happens to McDavid, you're just, your heart's in your throat. Essentially, and just hoping everything is good.
Hell, by the way, you think the league officers didn't, hold their breath for a second as well?
Of course, yeah. Star of the league,
best on national TV
right
getting
now.
hurt. Yeah, that would be a really bad look.
Yeah, Yeah, no question about that. Got to give a shout out to Keith Yandel. Great job, by the way, on the panel last night. I think the television gig will be just fine for him. He looked like he was right at home. He was engaging, charismatic, all that stuff. Was cracking some jokes, fit right in nicely, filling in for tough shoes to fill when Biz Nasty's away too, and he filled them quite well last night for the TNT panel. It doesn't seem to matter who they have. Like, so there's nights when Tockett's away, there's nights that Anson's away, there's nights that Biz Nasty's away, Gretzky, the whole bit. It just seems like they've got a great, camaraderie every show. It's just fantastic viewing, in my opinion.
I agree, and yeah, like I said, everybody just kind of fits in nicely. There's a comfortable atmosphere. Like I said, it's not like the usual kind of sterile like NHL network setup, or even the ESPN setup at times can seem a bit rigid. But everything seems to be really relaxed and flowing nicely with TNT.
And it flows down to Kenny, Edzo, and Jonesy in the booth. Those three guys, they're entertaining as fuck when you're listening to the games.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because someone on Twitter said, "Well, hold on now. These are a lot of these guys were NBC and NHL and NBC guys." Liam McHugh, Kenny Albert, Edzo, Keith Jones, especially those guys. How come they go from there where they were just, basically kind of like they were going through the motions and just doing their vanilla hockey analysis, and now all of a sudden they're cracking jokes, showing some personality, and it's like, no, I think the directive from TNT is relax and have some fun, shoot from the hip, enjoy yourself, let loose, have some fun and entertain. And I think it's filtered down to Kenny Albert, Edzo, and Jonesy. I mean, they sound like a completely different trio now compared to when they were at NBC, just in terms of they're cracking jokes, they're having fun, they're shooting the shit, they're needling each other, they're chirping each other every now and then. It's great shit. Phenomenal.
Yeah, and you make a great point, and people don't realize how much goes into television production. It's not just always just the faces and the voices we see and hear right away. It's everyone involved, and like I said, the production is way different with Turner Sports. You can see that with the NBA broadcast too, not just inside the NBA, but like I said, just the game broadcast. It's just a whole different feel than you get from ESPN or any. Obviously, of course, a league network like NHL Network, they're going to keep everything as straightforward and rigid as possible. Not a whole lot of personal opinion, and that makes sense. It's the league's flagship network. That's how it's supposed to be ran. But you want to see that flair and variety and flavor on a national broadcast, in my opinion, especially because we don't see that too often from hockey broadcasts. It's really refreshing.
Yeah, no doubt. They've lapped ESPN in that regard in terms of the studio content. I also want to say, and look, this is someone, and he's been a friend of mine for about 20 years in my area, and he's like a bettor that's casual bettor, recreational bettor. He actually taught me something the last week or two, talking about betting a player to score a hat-trick goal, a third goal after they've scored two already. And we saw Trevor Moore get the hat trick last night for the LA Kings. And look, it's not a bad theory to look at this. When you see a player score his second goal of the game, bet that player to get a hat trick, and you can get 12-1, 14-1 odds and prices at a lot of the books after they score the second goal. You still get a pretty good price because the teammates around him are going to feed him the puck. They're going to try to get him that hat trick goal. And I think it's an interesting little angle to consider moving forward. Bet someone to score a hat trick if they've got two already.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I didn't realize, like I said, well, one, I know live options for betting player props. I don't know how widespan that is. I know you have a couple books where you can do that. I don't really have those options and liabilities, but if you do, I'm stunned to see a price that would be even higher than 5-1 for a guy with two goals to get a hat trick. Like I said, that just seemed to be a natural thing to bet. So, because I would always say if you were to bet someone to score two goals, you might as well put a quarter unit to bet for them to get three because of the fact that they're going to be looking for them with the empty net. So the same kind of theory, but just done in a different practice. That makes total sense. And you mentioned Trevor Moore getting the hat trick. Andreas Anastasiou got really close to getting the hat trick. There was a power play with about 2.5 minutes left in that game, even though it was already decided, but they were feeding him the puck. Patrick Kane kept trying to find him open, looking for that third goal as well. So that's something definitely to look at. And I know I actually heard from some people who they take flyers every day. They'll put $10 down on somebody, randomly to score a hat trick, and they actually end up cashing when Jack Eichel hit the one in Buffalo. So some people who do that the same way that they'll kind of do a lottery parlay of games that are all going to go to a draw or a bunch of money lines. That's something to look at as well.
No question, no doubt about that. Definitely something to factor in is the old hat trick, live in-game hat trick bet for someone that scored 2 goals. And like I said, that the team is going to try to find him on the ice and try to get him that 3rd goal, that hat trick goal in that game. All right, great stuff on last night's card, but now it's time to get into a loaded Thursday card, and we will start with Montreal and Columbus. Even money, -110, both sides, 6.5 the total in this game. The Blue Jackets, I'll tell you what, they're probably thinking, man, can we just play the Philadelphia Flyers every game the rest of the season? We might actually be able to get our season back on track if that's the case. But no, I mean, they haven't won a ton of games, but the games they've won, 2 of their recent wins, both against the Philadelphia Flyers, 5-2 last week, and then, of course, 5-4 the other night in overtime. And if you missed it on yesterday's show, I played the classic clip of that interview with Tortorella during the game, talking about we suck with Brian Boucher early in that game. He was not happy. Neither was I, as someone that used the Flyers as a very rare best bet, something I'm probably not going to be doing very often this year. But I thought Tuesday night it was worth a look, and they ended up losing in overtime against Columbus in that game. But that's 2 out of their last 3 they've won. Granted, both wins, like I said, against the Flyers. See if they can keep it rolling here. I'm just going to stick to the total here. I like over 6.5. I think it's a good bet. Columbus still is going over the total. They pulled the Flyers into a track meet, and that's not easy to do. And you look at their numbers, 7-3 to the over their last 10 games. Montreal comes in off a 5-1 loss to New Jersey. I don't think you can be too upset about that if you're the Canadians. Nobody's beaten New Jersey right now. 10 straight wins for the Devils. Habs have been absolutely solid, though. The effort's been good. They had won 3 in a row before that. We'll see if they can carry that over here to this game. Columbus has actually dominated this series. 5 straight head-to-head victories for Columbus against the Montreal Canadiens. Maybe they're going to get on a little bit of a roll. We'll see if they can use that Philadelphia victory the other night as a bit of a springboard to better things moving forward. But that's for that reason, even though I lean Montreal, I'm going to stay off a side here in this game. As far as the goaltending matchup goes, it'll be Jonas Korpisalo in net for the Jackets. Samuel Montembeault confirmed in net for the Canadians, who's actually played okay when he's been in there. But the injuries just keep on mounting, too, for Columbus. And that's why it was shocking they still beat Philly. That's why I really like Philly. I mean, Columbus was an injury-riddled mess going into that game, and they still are. Elvis Merzlikins is injured again. Tessier's still out. Jake Bean on the blue line's out. Blankenberg on IR. Boquist on IR. Werenski on IR. Voracek on IR. Patrick Lyonnais on IR. Justin Danforth on IR. I mean, my gosh. I mean, it's a walking wounded infirmary right now with the Columbus Blue Jackets at this point in time. So I think I've strongly leaned to Montreal here. I might sprinkle on that, but I like the total a lot more. Over 6.5 here. In this one, I think it's a good way to go. Alex, what do you think? Habs Jackets.
Yeah, what a week for John Tortorella, right? You lose 2 games to your old team, and then you get kicked in the face by a horse. That's about as bad as it gets, right? But like I said, Columbus picking up those wins. Now they're playing a different team, and like I said, with their injuries, they're basically the Cleveland Monsters at this point. That's just a lot of guys to be missing right now. Korpisalo is going to be the starter for at least the next couple of weeks. So it's just a bit of a shambles. Montreal, they aren't necessarily that great over team, but lately they said they've been kind of getting pulled into some track meets as well, some higher scoring affairs. This is one I think you'd be able to get a better price in game. I would look for this to drop down. I did this once before Montreal when they played Pittsburgh over the past weekend. I might look for this to drop to 5.5 at plus money. And see if I can get that over there that way. But I do lean with the over. I think we're going to see a bit of a higher paced and higher scoring affair tonight.
And again, cluster injuries on the blue line for Columbus. That's an over situation for me when I see a game involving a team with multiple starting defensemen out. And you've got 4 guys that would normally be starting defensemen for the Columbus Blue Jackets that are out tonight. Bean, Blankenberg, Boquist, and Werenski. So tough sledding for them. And actually, Montembeault is 3-1 in his 4 starts this year. So I think I'm talking myself into Montreal. I probably will end up betting Montreal for something here, -110. But I definitely like the over 6.5 even more in this game. As far as the props go, look, Bemstrom, by the way, is also now questionable. He's day-to-day game time decision for him after being elevated to the top line. So the bottom line is keep an eye on the lineups and the line combinations before puck drop. Whoever's in that top line right wing spot, the Patrick Laine spot, with Boone Jenner and Johnny Gaudreau. Bet their prop because they'll be undervalued, whoever it is. That would be a recommendation I would have. It was Bemstrom last game, but if he doesn't play tonight, it'll be someone else. For Montreal, I say stick with the hot hands right now. Suzuki, Kirby Dach, Mike Hoffman has stepped up lately. Those are all good goal scorer prop recommendations, in my opinion, there. Philadelphia, Boston. Boston minus 340, home favorite, 6 the total in this game. Obviously, a massive, massive price here with the Boston Bruins. And doesn't it feel like Philadelphia is playing like Philadelphia now, finally? It took a while, but starting to slide. They have lost 4 in a row and on a 4-game losing streak coming into this game. Boston just continues to roll along. Just a terrific start, 14-2. They have yet to be defeated at TD Garden this year, 9-0 on home ice this year, the Bruins. So really tough to step in front of this team. But, am I going to lay minus 340 in this spot? No, I am not. Not interested in laying this kind of a number. Probably in terms of the side or the total, not really a strong opinion. This is more of a prop game for me. It'll be if I get involved in it. Carter Hart, Linus Ullmark, by the way, are going to be the goalies. Not the best game from Carter Hart, who's had a very good season overall so far. Not his best effort, in my opinion, against Columbus the other night, but he will be back in net tonight for the Flyers in this game. As far as the lineup combinations go, you've got Owen Tippett, kind of worth a look if you're looking for someone with Philadelphia to find the back of the net. He's been a little bit more noticeable. They're putting Lawton on the top line, elevating him up. He's had a lot of chances lately. That's not a bad way to consider a prop for the Flyers either. As far as the Boston side goes, it's really been just terrific from Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak. That perfection line, Jim Montgomery finally reuniting it. They will be playing together on the top line, DeBrusk, Krejci, and Hall, the second line for the Bruins tonight. So, I think when you look at that group, Taylor Hall is someone that has been up and down this year, kind of in a cold spell right now. But right now it's been those 3 in particular that have been just magnificent. Pasternak. And again, we've got a situation here where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Philly penalty kill has hit the shits the last 3 games they have. They've given up 5 power play goals the last 3 games. And this Boston Bruins power play, has scored 5 goals in the last 4 games. So, good power play versus bad penalty kill. What's that mean? If you're a prop bettor, you look at power play points for some of these Bruins players tonight. I think that's probably a good consideration here tonight. What do you think here, Alex? Philly, Boston?
With the 6, I kind of like this over a little bit. I think, there's no value in anything Boston, including the team total. You're looking, minus $1.70, minus $1.80 to go over 3.5. And I think the Flyers can find a way to at least get a couple in the back of the net. I think this should be a kind of a decent pace. And even though these two teams that tend to kind of play more to the under against other teams, when they play each other, it seems to be a little bit higher scoring, a little bit just kind of like I said, chippy game. And if it does get chippy with that Flyers penalty kill, that's this could get out of hand with Boston when we know how good they can be when they click on the power play. So I like the over 6. I think that's a good price. You're only laying around $1.15 to $1.20.
Yeah, just to be specific, the 7th ranked power play in the NHL, Boston, 22nd penalty kill, Philadelphia. So definitely there you see a special teams advantage possibly here for the Boston Bruins. Not to mention their penalty kill, Boston, number 1 in the league, and Philly's power play is only 26th. So definitely special teams war on paper. Big advantage, Boston Bruins, no question about that. All right, Calgary, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay minus 125, home favorite, 6.5 the total. We're going to ride the Flames again. I mean, they're starting to get out of their little funk, and they've done it in a nice fashion, if you will, back-to-back wins against Winnipeg and L.A. In their last 2 games. Now they hit the road once again. A road trip that, remember, you're going to look and see that they're 1-3 on the road, and that last road trip they got goose-egged. But, boy, they played well enough to win so many of those games. I mean, the Devils game they should have won, could have won. Islanders game, same thing. They actually had a lead, couldn't protect it. The Boston game, I thought they played well enough. They just couldn't score. They lost a tight one, 3-1. They had a bunch of games on that recent road trip. They could have won Calgary. And now they're finally starting to get the offense going again, get that confidence back. And I think now starting this little road trip, and this is always that tough back 2-step when you got to play Tampa and Florida, the 2-game Florida trip back-to-back. It's never easy, but I think Calgary comes in here with some great confidence. Tampa Bay with a 5-4 win against Dallas in overtime in their last game. They've now won 2 straight games, but again, they face a Dallas team that To be honest, Jake Ottinger hasn't really found his form since returning from injury. I'm not worried. I'm not panicked. He'll be fine long term. But sometimes when you come back from injury, you're just not great when you first return. And I think that's the case with Ottinger. And then they feasted on just an absolutely, completely dismembered and shorthanded Washington team. So I don't want to make too much of that victory for Tampa Bay. I think there's a spot for Calgary here to step up. They can capable of getting a victory here in Tampa Bay tonight. I like them at a small road underdog price. As far as the props go for this game, I'm going right back to the well. We cashed a big one with Adam Ruzicka for the Calgary Flames in their last game against the LA Kings, playing on the top line now for the Flames alongside Elias Lindholm and Tyler Toffoli. I mean, you got to take advantage of this price. I mean, if they're going to put it at the number that it's going to be at once again, like it was last game, plus 500, you were able to get with Adam Ruzicka to score a goal for the Flames against the LA Kings. And here in tonight's game, we're looking at still, plus 400, a little adjustment, but not enough, in my opinion, for a guy now playing on the top line for the Flames. So he has now scored, by the way, in back-to-back games as well for them. So that is a clear choice for me in terms of player props. For Tampa Bay, it's Brandon Hagel. It's Nick Paul, has been pretty noticeable lately. I mean, those are two guys that I think undervalued for their props going into the game tonight. Alex, what do you think here, Calgary, Tampa?
It's interesting. I'm looking at the numbers, of course, that Chris Otto provides for us for the first periods, which he does a great job with. And it's interesting. You look at the top five, the two teams that are in there for the first period over is Calgary, 11-4, Tampa, 11-5. Teams that are, kind of known for playing a little bit slower of a style over the last couple of years, as far as at least the beginning of a game going. But they have, decent offenses, and we're seeing this trend where they're two teams that have been trying to get things going early. More for Calgary, we've seen them kind of, not being fully there early. But either way you look at it, you're getting actually a decent number now. If you shop around, minus $1.35, minus $1.40. This is when I'd actually wait for. And I don't do this often with first period overs. I tend to try to wait for plus money for full game totals. I'm going to actually try to wait for this to hit around even money or plus $1.05 with the over 1.5 in game tonight with Calgary, Tampa Bay. I think we might see a decent enough pace where we can get over 2 goals, but you should be able to get it at a much better price than laying what I'm seeing now as high as $1.50 in some spots. So that's what I recommend for this one. I think this could be a good back and forth battle. But like somebody was saying in the chat, Calgary fold like a tent in the third period. Yeah, we've seen them have those struggles late. So maybe if this is a close game or Calgary has a 2-1 lead midway through, maybe look to try to look for that Tampa side live at a plus price as well. So this is a good live game for me.
Definitely a good live game. And I lean over full game as well. The first period over might be worth a look as well. And just because, look, again, we talk about a cluster injury on the defensive side situation on the blue line for Tampa. Eric Chernak and Cal Foote, they've both missed the last 2 games for Tampa Bay on the blue line. What happened in those 2 games? Both went over the total. That's what happened. Washington and, of course, Dallas in the last game. So, and Chernak is one of the best in terms of defending in his own end, blocking shots. I mean, you lose all of that when Eric Chernak is out for Tampa Bay. And as a result, look, they're playing a little bit looser defensively without those 2 guys. So that's why I'm leaning over the total in this game. But I'd like the Calgary side here at plus 105 in this one. Like I say, Tampa Bay, when you look at them, you watch them, the eye test, not impressive even in their victories. Like they beat a Buffalo team that's struggling now. Washington's depleted. Dallas, it was a back-and-forth game. They could have lost that game as well. They barely beat Ottawa at home. They snuck past Tampa. Or San Jose. They snuck past Anaheim. I mean, there's a lot of we're just doing enough to get by in Tampa Bay's results this season. So I think that they'll be challenged tonight by this Calgary team, in my opinion. New Jersey and Toronto next up. Speaking of challenge, the Leafs will be challenged by the hottest team in the NHL, El Diablo. 10 in a row for the Devils. Toronto minus 145 home favorites, 6.5 the total in this one. Look, they're not going to go and win every game the rest of the regular season, obviously, New Jersey, but you're going to give me this kind of price with them having won 10 games in a row. I'm going to bite the hand that feeds me, essentially, because I took Toronto against Pittsburgh the other night. I thought the revenge situation after losing Friday night, Murray playing his old team, returning to the ice for the first time. You're going to get a great effort from the Leafs. They did bring it 5-2. They beat Pittsburgh, and Murray's going to be back in net tonight. But, this New Jersey team is just not someone I'm willing to step in front of. And you're going to give me here a plus 125 here in this game, I think it's definitely the side to look at here. I mean, they're just playing outstanding hockey. All four lines are contributing. It's not just Hughes has been on fire lately. And there was, think about that they were winning games with him not really percolating the way he is right now. But Hischier with Zetterlund and Tatar has been just a dynamic line. Like I said, 4 points and 3 goals for Hughes in the last 2 games. Alex has mentioned those over 1.5 point props. That might be something to consider with Jack tonight for the New Jersey Devils. Jack Hughes, with the way he's been going in terms of current form lately. Sharon Govich, Jesper Boquist, Jesper Bratt, the third line. Those guys can score at times. And you got a guy, Miles Wood, on the fourth line. I've said this repeatedly, 6 goals, and he plays on the fourth line. And that guy's got 6 goals on the season for New Jersey. It tells you how dangerous they are right now, the Devils. Dougie Hamilton, too. Shots on goal props, point props. He's lighting it up from the blue line right now. 6 points in the last 4 games. You could even sprinkle his goal scorer prop. He's shooting like a madman right now, and he scored 3 goals in the last 4 games for the New Jersey Devils from the blue line. So Dougie Hamilton prop is not something I would shy away from in this game tonight as well. So I like the Devils. I can't help but lean over the total as well with the firepower both sides possess going into this game. You look at series history, especially this New Jersey-Toronto head-to-head matchup has been a high-scoring palooza, an over fiesta, if you will. The over is cashed in 6 of the last 8 meetings, 6-2 to the over, 4-1 in the last 5 meetings. You've seen some 5-4 games, some 7-2 games, 7-4, 6-4. You've really had some high-scoring affairs with these 2 teams. New Jersey is playing better defensively this year than in any of those past years. That is something to keep in mind when looking at that series history. But I still think when push comes to shove, goals are on the menu tonight with the Devils and the Leafs. Vanacek back in net as well for New Jersey. Alex, what do you think here, Devils, Leafs?
Yeah, I mean, it makes almost too much sense to take the Devils.
That's the issue. That's the concern,
plus
right?
125. And the only reason this is lined this way, it has to be because of the series history. Devils have lost the last 8 straight against Toronto. They have gone 2-12 the last 14 in Toronto. And, we talk about that. When you see those kind of trends, you have to kind of start thinking, okay, what is it about them playing in Toronto? Or what is it about a team playing in a certain city where they don't, have a good track record? Now, granted, we're talking about much better Toronto teams over the years and some really bad New Jersey teams over that span as well. So, so you can't just read straight into that. But this just feels really fishy of a line. Plus 125, the team that's won 10 in a row against a team in Toronto where we see them choke often as favorites. If I had to play it, I would go Devils, but I'm going to just pass this one.
By the way, Michael Bunting might be someone to consider for the Leafs and props tonight as well, because, look, he got moved up to the top line with Austin Matthews and William Nylander. Instant chemistry, and it got him going. Because, look, he hasn't had a great in terms of goal production. It hasn't really been there for Bunting so far this year. He had 2 goals going into the Pittsburgh game, goes up to the top line with Matthews and Nylander, and all of a sudden he scores 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points in that game. So you talk about undervalued prop player right now. Could be him, especially now that he's getting those top line minutes for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it definitely a move that paid off for Sheldon Keefe the other night for Bunting. Again, you don't get that bargain bin price that I usually like, but hey, you can still get plus 280 in some spots with Bunting tonight, and he's playing on the top line. So no question about that. Someone in the chat, do you bet shot props? Occasionally, not a lot, because I just prefer to go for those goal props and the plus price. This is the plus money. I mean, I was on Marty Natchez a few times over shots on goal prop, but yeah, I know there's people that do very well with it, and if I really poured in my time and energy and resources to it, I'm sure I could too, but I just prefer the goal scorer props and dabbling in that market, even though, of course, the results with those can be highly volatile from time to time. All right, Dallas and Florida. Next up here, we've got Florida minus 180, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. When you look at this matchup here, I can't help but think Florida's a little overpriced in this game, minus 180. And granted, the Florida Panthers this are still a pretty good hockey team. Obviously, the changes that they made in the offseason, Huberdeau out, Weegar out, Tkachuk in, and changing their philosophy, their style of play just a little bit more so a forecheck cycle type of team under the new head coach here, Paul Maurice. So that's important to keep that in mind. But Florida 4 wins in their last 5 games. They are playing better hockey. They finished that road trip strong against San Jose and Anaheim. They won 4-3 and 5-3 in back-to-back games there against the Sharks and the Ducks. They return home. They shut out Carolina 3-0. They have the loss to Edmonton 4-2, which was really the Stuart Skinner show for the Edmonton Oilers. That was the reason for Florida losing. And then they bounced back, but they beat a depleted, and I mean depleted, Washington team. We've talked about the Capitals now multiple times on this show, how they've just been beaten up to shit with all kinds of the personnel loss, and Florida certainly took advantage of that. Dallas is cooling off a little bit, you could say. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They at the end of a long road trip, they lost to Winnipeg, and Winnipeg's playing some pretty good hockey. I'm not going to hold that against them. They return home against San Jose. San Jose is suddenly playing a little bit better, and even though they lost that game 5-4, first game back for Ottinger, I don't hold that against them. They come back. They beat Philadelphia strongly on Sunday afternoon, 5-1. And then it was a back-and-forth game against the Lightning. Could have easily went their way. They end up losing that game 5-4 in overtime. Scott Wedgwood is going to be in between the pipes tonight for the Dallas Stars. It'll be Sergei Bobrovsky once again for Florida. Interesting that they're going back to Bobrovsky again, a second straight game. I know he actually played pretty well. I mean, he did face 43 shots, only gave up 2 goals in that game against the Capitals, but still, we're going to need to see more evidence of consistency from him. I still think long-term Spencer Knight is, I think, going to be your guy, should be your guy in that, let this kid become the number 1 guy that we know eventually he's going to be at some point for this team. And yes, it's Wedgwood, and normally you would think Wedgwood is a huge drop-off, or at least somewhat of a drop-off from Jake Ottinger, but, Jake Ottinger has not gotten into the flow, has not gotten into the rhythm necessarily since he's been back from the injury. And Wedgwood's, capable. I don't want to say he's great, but he's capable for the Dallas Stars. Let's not forget, he only gave up 2 goals to the LA Kings, gave up 2 goals to the Coyotes, gave up only 2 goals to the Oilers. He had that one game against Winnipeg where he struggled a bit in the 5-1 loss. The whole team was kind of lethargic that night. I watched that game. I was on Winnipeg that night. Our guest, by the way, Josh Eunice, that was the day we had him on the show last week. He liked Winnipeg in that spot against Dallas. I think it's a situation where, the whole team was not great. You can't just pin it all on Scott Wedgwood's play, in my opinion. So I just like this price with Dallas. I think they're undervalued a little bit here, and I think Florida is overvalued a little bit here. So I like Dallas plus 160. I'm going to take a shot with them at the underdog price in this game. As far as the props go, Mason Marchment against his old team is a must tonight. Absolute must. We've talked about how, first of all, Mason Marchment, you're always going to be able to get better prices with him and his goal props compared to certain other players on the Stars. And you can still get him as high as plus 300 at Caesars to score a goal tonight. Second line for the Dallas Stars. He found the back of the net in the game against Tampa Bay the other night. He plays with Tyler Seguin and also the young kid who I would take a shot with again tonight to score a goal, Matej Blumel, who didn't score against Tampa, but he did before that, and he's had chances pretty much in every game for the Dallas Stars. So, but Mason Marchment is the number 1 prop tonight. I think it might be the best prop on the board tonight in this game of all games and all players tonight. Mason Marchment for the Dallas Stars, considering how good he is and how good he's become offensively. Scored in the last game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was a bit of a drought for him, believe it or not. 6 straight games without a goal before scoring against Tampa Bay. Now he faces his old team, the Florida Panthers. So in this case here, I think that's one of your better props tonight. Mason Marchment at plus 300. And let's hope we can invest and cash with a little bit of Marchment paper here tonight in this game with the Dallas Stars. And I like, again, plus 160 on them as well in this one. Florida, in terms of the props here tonight, let me just see. Nick Cousins is someone that stands out to me because he's playing on the 4th line essentially right now, but he's come back from at least a 3-game, I guess, healthy scratch he was. I don't think it was injury. I think it was a 3-game scratch that he 3 games he was scratched in a row, late October and early November. And he has scored 2 goals now in the last 3 games. Again, he's only getting 9 to 10, sometimes upwards of 13 minutes a game. He's not playing a ton, but he's making the most of those opportunities. So Nick Cousins could be worth a look here in terms of a under the radar, undervalued bargain bin player prop here for the Panthers tonight. Alex B. Smith is in the chat. Apparently he's feeling a little woozy. So if he hopefully he can join us back later in the show. If not, he's in the chat to help us for the rest of the show. He's a fighter for even joining us today, still, again, on the mend. All right, next up, we've got Colorado and Carolina. Carolina minus 135, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. This is a tricky game for me because I made mention to this earlier this season about Colorado. I really want to make a point of it to see what their record is when they're a dog, because we're not going to see them as an underdog very often. And a part of me is going to think throughout the course of the year that when they're an underdog, they might be an underdog for a reason, and it may not be the right time to back them. Well, they were an underdog against Calgary. Second game of the year, they lost that game 5-3. And they were only an underdog one other time at Vegas, and they actually did win that game 3-2. Now it's 1-1. They are as a dog this year. So I'm not saying you don't blindly make a decision based on, oh, they're a dog versus they're a favorite, but I am interested to track that throughout the course of the year. Those rare instances when the Colorado Avalanche are an underdog, what is their record going to be going into the year? It is a revenge spot, short turnaround revenge. We talk about how for the most part these spots have been working out well. I can give you a ton of examples. The Rangers against Detroit, Minnesota against Seattle, Toronto against Pittsburgh just the other night. Pittsburgh won last week. Toronto returned the favor. You've got that situation here. Colorado won 4-1 on Saturday against Carolina. Carolina now looking to return the favor at home tonight against the Avs. Carolina off a 3-0 shutout win against Chicago. Colorado off a 3-2 loss to the St. Louis Blues the other night at home, where Colorado did everything but tie the game late with just a barrage of chances, and they just could not put the puck in the net as they tried frantically to tie that game in the latter stages. So I'm off this game entirely. Francouz, by the way, is going to be getting the start in net. I think Alexander Georgiev has pretty much been the starting number one goalie so far this year for the Avs, and Francouz has been relegated to backup role. But his numbers aren't that bad. He's got a bit of bad luck, bad fortune to go with his record. He's 1-3 in his starts this year, but 2.55 goals against average, .912 save percentage. The numbers really aren't that bad for Francouz, so he probably just needs a little bit more in terms of offensive support. As far as the Carolina Hurricanes go, obviously they have had Freddie Anderson on IR, which means the goaltending has been going back and forth, and not close to returning either is Freddie Anderson. He's already missed 4 games with his lower body injury, and there is no telltale sign when he's going to be back. That's the same old shit. It really is. It's I hate to be, it sucks when someone's always injured, and it sucks to bring the hammer down when they're injured. It's tough to watch, tough for the teams to see that this guy keeps getting hurt. But I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. When Carolina picked him up from Toronto, there's a reason why Toronto moved on from Freddie Anderson, brought Campbell in as the number one. It's because he did not trust his ability to stay healthy and play an 82-game season. And we're seeing that once again right now for Carolina at this point in time. So unfortunate for Freddie. It's got to be frustrating for him and frustrating for the Hurricanes. So it's going to be an Antti Raanta, Pyotr Kochetkov split still with the goaltending from a game-to-game basis. We'll see who's in net tonight. Antti Raanta. We'll see if he gets the start, because he did not start Chicago game. That was Kochetkov, who pitched the shutout. Pitt played very well. Raanta played at Colorado Saturday. They lost that game 4-1. Makes me think maybe Kochetkov might get a look here, might get a second straight start, shake it up a little bit for this game against Colorado. We'll have to wait and see on that. Hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'm passing this game. I would look only at some props if I were to get involved betting this game at all, and probably look at, for Colorado, Alex Newhook moved up to the second line. There's some value there. Logan O'Connor's actually been an under the radar offensive producer for the Colorado Avalanche. For Carolina, I've mentioned Marty Necas all season. Steph Nason, I would come back to Stefan Nason. Still on the top line with Aho and Jarvis, it looks like tonight. I think he's going to maybe find the back of the net at some point. Like, he's had 6, he's had 4, he's had 2 shots on goal 3 of the last 5 games. He's playing 15 minutes a night now that he's playing on the top line. So Stefan Nason, I think, might eventually break through offensively. I think he's one of your value options for Carolina in terms of a goal prop tonight in this game. All right, let's move on now. Anaheim, Winnipeg. We've got the Jets, a minus 210 home favorites here, 6 being the total in this game. Of course, this is an Anaheim team that we've been picking on them a lot lately, but they did finally get a victory in overtime the other night against the Detroit Red Wings. It was really a nice Christmas gift, Christmas present come early for the Anaheim Ducks with that wonderful gift sent to them by Tyler Bertuzzi. A nice little gift of a pass right up the middle of the ice in front of your own net, which ended up leading to the overtime game-winning goal for the Anaheim Ducks the other night against Detroit. So they definitely took advantage of that. And got the victory there in that game. But overall, you're still talking about a Ducks team that has had a real struggle. Do you know that the Anaheim Ducks have not won a game in regulation this year? Hard to believe. Really is. Absolutely hard to believe, but true. That the Anaheim Ducks have not won a single game this year. It's November 17th. We're over a month into the season now. We have not seen the Anaheim Ducks win a game in regulation time this season. That's stunning. All victories for Anaheim this year, all 5 wins, they're 5-11. All 5 wins have been in either overtime or a shootout. You know, that's where we're at right now with Anaheim. I mean, even the wins they do get, it's by the skin of their teeth, and they need more than 3 periods to decide it right now. Winnipeg coming off a 3-2 overtime win against Seattle. They bounced back nicely after a 3-2 loss to Calgary. I'm telling you what, the Rick Bowness effect is having a positive effect right now for the Winnipeg Jets. 6-2 they are in their last 8 games. It's been impressive that they have really, everything that I'm reading and hearing and the Jet reporters are saying is that this is a harmonious dressing room again. You know, they've really gotten that part of their team fixed in terms of the camaraderie, in terms of the locker room feel. And they're playing as good a defensive brand of hockey as they have in years, which has always been the bit of an issue for the Winnipeg Jets the last couple of years. So there's a lot of positives to go around right now with the way things are going. They do have a couple injuries. Mason Appleton's on IR. He's a good, hardworking player. Nick Ehlers has been out for a while. Logan Stanley on IR, but they've found ways to overcome it, this Winnipeg Jets team. And it's going to be a special night, too. In Winnipeg, they're honoring Teppo. Hello, Numminen. Teppo Numminen. He will be honored in terms of the Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame. They're inducting him along with Teemu Selanne tonight in terms of the Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame. So they're going to have a nice ceremony for the two of them prior to the game tonight. So I don't really make a betting decision based on a ceremony going on or not, but it should be a special environment at least here in Winnipeg tonight. And I'll tell you what, I remember both, obviously it goes without saying, Teemu Selanne, just an absolutely outstanding career, a gifted goal scorer all those years, won a cup, of course, in Anaheim, which is why they're probably doing it with the Ducks in town because of Teemu Selanne's connection to both of these franchises during his playing career. And Teppo Numminen, great memories of him for me as a Sabre fan with that Buffalo team, with those Buffalo teams in the mid-2000s, those teams that got to the conference finals. Numminen was on those teams with Briere and Drury and Pominville and Brian Campbell and Stafford, Thomas Vanek. I mean, go on down the list. Those really good Buffalo teams, and Numminen was just a good, steady defenseman. That's what he was. He was not flashy. He didn't exactly, hit the highlight reel every night, but he was just a good, sound, steady player in his own end. Made the first pass, did the right things, positionally sound. That kind of defenseman for you. And a great career he had, and a long one as well in the NHL, which started with, of course, the Winnipeg Jets. So great to see them honored, Selanne and Numminen tonight by the Jets. I'm going to probably look at a team total for the Jets tonight, 3.5. I think that might be the way I go here in this game as far as the from a betting standpoint. Anaheim is still, for the most part, giving up a lot of goals in bunches to their opponent. Now, they only gave up 3 to Chicago. They only gave up 2 to Detroit. So is that a sign they're turning things around defensively? I'm not ready to go that far just yet. What I do know about Winnipeg is you get them on home ice. Lately, they have had no problem finding the back of the net. They have scored 4 goals or more in 3 of their last 4 home games. They put a 4 spot on the board against St. Louis at home. Shut out Chicago, put up 4 in that game. They put up 5 against Dallas in a home game. So that's probably what I would look at here is the team total over 3.5 minus 125 or so with the Winnipeg Jets in this game. And stay away from the full game over just because you're not sure if you're going to get enough offense from the Anaheim Ducks, that side of the equation. That being said, you did see 2 of the 3 meetings last year go over the total with these 2 teams. I would lean that way, the full game over. You could always do a full game over split, Jets team total over split. I might even do that, but I definitely prefer the team total here over 3.5 with the Jets tonight in this game. As far as the props go, there's really only a couple I like for Anaheim. Comtois continues to be a little bit undervalued for them, although it looks like he may be out tonight. It looks out due to injury or out due to a healthy scratch. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't see him listed on the line forward group tonight. Pavel Regenda, by the way, is moving up to the second line, so that could provide some value for Anaheim. And then for Winnipeg, Pierre-Luc Dubois just got it rolling right now. Sam Gagner is going to be on the top line for what it's worth. So, again, you talk about someone that may not be priced like someone playing on the top line. Gagner is going to take Appleton's spot on the top line with Scheifele and Connor, playing with some damn good players. So maybe you look toward a Sam Gagner flyer here tonight in terms of finding the back of the net, playing on that top line with Scheifele and Connor, 2 of the best players on the team. Of course, you've got to throw PLD in the mix, but certainly that's a great top line that you get to play with 2 players of that caliber if you're Sam Gagner moving up to the top line, and you can get him at around plus 380 to score a goal tonight. So not a bad option here for value purposes on Sam Gagner to find the back of the net. All right, Washington and St. Louis. We've got the Blues minus 115 to minus 120. Home favorites, 6 the total in this game. I'm probably staying off this game. I mean, for St. Louis, I'm certainly not stepping in front of St. Louis. And I'm not doing it with this Washington team that is just riddled right now. And obviously, it's showing up in the results. 2-7 in their last 9 games. It's been a rough go for the Capitals. It's just, we'd need to see Washington at full strength before we throw this team in the garbage chute. You know what I mean? I mean, you just can't say right now that, Washington's just garbage here. They're just going to have a pathetic season. They're 7-11. Things are going wrong. Well, things will go wrong when you have Tom Wilson, TJ Oshie, Dmitry Orlov, Carl Hagelin, Connor Brown, Nick Backstrom, Nicholas Aubé-Kubel, all injured, all out for this team at the same time. Obviously, you're going to have some struggles. No question about that with all of those guys out. And they miss Orlov, too, on the back end. There's no denying that whatsoever. Dmitry Orlov's one of their best stay-at-home shutdown defensemen, and he remains out and on IR for the Capitals. Looks like Charlie Lindgren is going to get the start tonight for Washington. He hasn't started since the Edmonton game a few games back where he gave up 4 goals, but Capitals bailed him out with 5. Scored in that game to get the 5-4 win over Edmonton. So he was in that game. He's actually given up 3 goals or more in all 4 starts this year. And his numbers actually aren't that bad. Like the goals against is 2.98. It's respectable. Save percentage, same thing, 915. And he is 2-1, but he has still given up at least 3 in every start that he has had so far this year. Now, look, and he's also a guy that played a little bit for the St. Louis Blues last year. He wasn't there very long. But he did play with St. Louis briefly last year. But the Blues are turning it on. Like I said, they've won 4 in a row. A lot of the issues they had during that losing streak was lack of offense. Well, they've now scored 3+ during this 4-game win streak, 3+ goals in every game. So, I definitely think you could look at a team total right now with St. Louis over 3.5. I could look that way. I could lean slightly to the full game over here, but back-to-back situation for the Blues. Washington has gone over in 2 straight. Like I said, they've given up 5 to Florida, 6 to Tampa. Back-to-back games. Team that is definitely feeling the absence, like I said, of the guy that's their best shutdown D-man, and that is Dmitry Orlov. No question about that. He's missed the last 3 games now for the Washington Capitals, and it's definitely taken its toll. There's no question about that. So, yeah, overall, I'm just going to end up looking toward either a St. Louis team total or a full game over, maybe a split between the 2. I still want to see if Greiss gets confirmed. You would think so, right? With Binnington obviously getting the nod last night against Chicago. you got to give him a rest at some point. Now, he has been in the net for all 4 games during this win streak, Binnington. He's played very well. It's worth noting he's played very well during this stretch. And I'm willing to give him his props. I hate the antics. I don't like when he's, going across the ice and he's pushing and shoving guys and he's acting like a dick. I don't like that. A lot of people don't like that. But we're here to compliment and comment on his play in between the pipes as a goaltender, which is what he's paid to do, not cause a ruckus. He's paid to stop pucks. And in the last 4 games during the win streak, he has been stopping the pucks. He's been playing well for the St. Louis Blues in net. So we'll give him credit for that. But if they turn to Thomas Greiss tonight, that goes out the window. Thomas Greiss has obviously struggled. I don't believe the Blues have won a game with him starting. 0-3, 3.79 goals against, and an .899 save percentage. So if it is Greiss, I'm at that point, I'm a little bit more interested in a over for the full game, because even then I'd probably pivot away from the Blues team total, look over full game, because that could open the door for Washington offensively to find the back of the net. So definitely this is going to be a game and a betting situation with the Capitals and the Blues for me that hinges upon the starting lineups and also who's in net for St. Louis tonight. You got to assume it's Greiss, but never say never, considering that, he struggled. Binnington's been winning all games on this win streak. They might actually ride Binnington a second night in a row, even though it's back-to-back. So we'll wait on that. All right, next up, we've got Pittsburgh and Minnesota. Even money here, -110 both sides, 6.5 the total in this game. I mean, I would take Pittsburgh if I had to, but I'm not really in a rush to trust either of these teams right now, honestly. That was supposed to be a better effort than I got from Minnesota the other night. 2-1, kind of lethargic. After blowing a lead against San Jose on home ice. So I didn't like seeing that necessarily. Just 2-4 in the last 6 games for the Minnesota Wild. At the same time, Pittsburgh, they had that brutal losing streak, rough go of it. They were blowing leads multiple times during that skid. The offense kind of cooled off. They went through a stretch where Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary on that road trip, they only scored 1 goal in each game. And then they started to score, and then they started to blow the third period leads, and they just couldn't get all facets of their game working at the same time. That's been their issue this season. They finally snapped that losing streak last week with back-to-back wins against Washington and Toronto, both on the road. And then they lost in overtime on Saturday to Montreal, and then the redemption game for the Leafs. Pittsburgh lost that one as well, 5-2. So now they're back in the losing streak here with 2 in a row following snapping the initial losing streak, winning 2 in a row. Now they've lost another 2 in a row. So it's just 2 teams that are just not in great form right now. Pittsburgh has played well, though, against Minnesota, worth noting, 6-1 in the last 7 meetings for the Penguins over the Minnesota Wild. I would take Pittsburgh before I take Minnesota here personally in this game, but I'm not in a rush to trust either team, side or total. Minnesota's become a dead nuts under team just out of nowhere, essentially. 7 straight unders for the Minnesota Wild entering this game. I mean, they have become a team that's gotten solid enough goaltending, defended pretty well, but all of a sudden their offense is firing blanks. They're struggling to score goals 5-on-5. The power play, other than 2 goals they scored against a bad Anaheim penalty kill, the power play has been held in check as well for the Minnesota Wild in recent games. So they have definitely not been able to get things going offensively. So this might actually stay under. We'll see. Although, again, as much as I want to think this game could stay under, you've got 2 goalies that I don't love. Gustafsson in net for the Wild, 1-3, 2.82 goals against, 914 save percentage. Didn't play that bad against San Jose, to be honest with you, though, even though Minnesota couldn't hang on in that game. And then Jari getting the start here for Pittsburgh. And, his play is kind of tailed off. I mean, you look at his last 5 starts, or 6 starts, rather, 3+ allowed in every start, each of the last 6. 3 to Columbus, 6 to Edmonton, 4 to Vancouver, 6 to Boston, 3 to Seattle, 5 to Montreal. And I didn't love that overtime goal Saturday night. I thought that was a goal Tristan Jarry could have stopped in that game the other night. So tough game all around. I think you could. This is just one of those games where it's like you can make a case for 4 different ways to go about it. You can make a case for Minnesota. You could make a case for Pittsburgh. You could make a case for the over. You could make a case for the under. You really could with this game. So I think it's a tough one to really pin down. and that's why I'm probably going to stay off it. As far as props go, I think Jason Zucker for Pittsburgh. First of all, it's his former team. Second of all, he's actually been one of the bright lights lately offensively for the Penguins in recent games. You look at his numbers. He scored 3 goals in the last 6 games for the Penguins. He's had 3+ shots on goal in 4 straight games, so he's had opportunities. Comes back to Minnesota here, facing his former team. That always amps you up, that always gets you wanting to play well. No question about that. So I think Jason Zucker here for Pittsburgh might be something to consider. You can get plus 330, as high as plus 330 at Caesars here for Jason Zucker prop tonight in this game for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that's not a bad look. You know, it's hard to sprinkle on these Minnesota props because their offense is so dormant right now. But if I had to pick a couple guys here, DeWar's not a bad option. And I've talked about Mason Shaw before, but I'm probably going to shy away from a lot of Minnesota props. Their offense is just not feeling it right now, struggling to put the puck in the net as a team. All right, New York Islanders, Nashville Predators. We got Nashville minus 115, home favorites, 6 the total, shaded to the under, 5.5, 6, depending on where you look here in this game. So Nashville's kind of pissed me off the last 2 games because I took Minnesota against them. I took the Rangers against them, and they won both games. I'm done fading Nashville for a bit. All right. You've perked up. Give you credit. I'm willing to do that. You've won 2 in a row after a bad stretch, beating the Rangers, beating the Wild. Great games in net from UC Saros. Much more compact, tighter checking, defensive-minded approach for Nashville, and it's working for them. You know, back-to-back 2-1 victories for them against the Rangers and the Wild. So I ain't fading Nashville now. I'll give them a chance to maybe get on a little bit of a hot streak here. But the New York Islanders, I'm not in a rush to fade them. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They're playing good hockey. 4-2 win against the Ottawa Senators on Monday night. They beat Columbus in overtime despite falling behind in that game. Yeah, they had the shocking upset against Arizona, but kind of a flat spot, and they kind of played like it. You know, really, other than that, they played some pretty good hockey, the Islanders, as of late. There's no question about that. This is a pass for me. Although I'm tempted at 5.5 with the look toward the over. I mean, I am, just because you don't see 5.5s very often. You saw 5.5 with St. Louis, Chicago by the time that game started last night. That total had dropped to 5.5 in many books. And sure enough, that game flies over the total with room to spare. So, yeah, it's 2 teams that are capable defensively, and Nashville's really tightened it up the last 2 games. So I understand the move to 5.5, but man, is it ever tempting anytime you see a 5.5 to look over the total. And when you actually look at the Islanders in recent games, they had a 6-goal game with Ottawa, a 7-goal game with Columbus, a 7-goal game with the Rangers, a 7-goal game with Calgary. 3 of their last 5 games have actually gone over the total. So maybe pizza money, Isles Predators over 5.5 for me, just because of this number dropping to where it has. As far as props go for this game, for the Islanders, Oliver Wahlstrom. I've talked about Oliver Wahlstrom a lot. He's still not being priced where the line mates that he plays with are. Zach Parise, the fountain of youth, has hit this guy all of a sudden. He scored the other night. He's had more chances. He's now up on the top line with Barzal and Wahlstrom. Could we get a little Zach Parise turning back the clock tonight for the Islanders and maybe finding the back of the net? Because he's getting the top line minutes with Barzal along with Wahlstrom. That looks to be your top line based on the current line combos tonight for the Islanders in this game. Like I said, Wahlstrom's plus 370, plus 440 in some spots to score a goal. Holy shit, there's a guy on the top line, plus 440 to score a goal tonight. Parise moving up to the top line, and he's upwards of plus 400, plus 410 to score a goal tonight. So that's bargain bin personified right there. Those 2 players, top line minutes, top line opportunity, plus 400 or better to score a goal. That's the kind of shit we like to see with the Ian Cameron player prop goal scorer bargain bin. No question about that. So, well, tonight, a couple others for the Nashville Predators. I'm just going to see here what's going to pique my interest here in terms of their props. Juuso Parssinen, you know, it's a guy that is now centering the top line for the Nashville Predators. Yakov, there's actually more than a few options. Yakov Trennin's moving up to the second line. Mark Jankowski, who I shit you not is from my area here, Hamilton, Dundas area. That's actually where he's from. And he's now looks like he's going to be the second line center spot for the Nashville Predators. He scored against the Rangers. He's getting more opportunity. He has 2 goals and 3 points in just 5 games. He's only played 5 games this year for Nashville, but he's got 2 goals and 3 points in the 5 games. And now he's on the second line center spot for the Nashville Predators. That's not a bad, that's a huge bargain bin. What is that prop on Jankowski? Plus 625 to score a goal. But he's played only in 5 games. He's had a couple of goals. So from that standpoint, that's worth a shot, when you're getting that kind of price, in my opinion, here for Jankowski. Trennan moving up the lineup, like I said, to the second line. Juuso Parssinen is centering the top line. He scored in his NHL debut against the Rangers on Saturday night. Had a bunch of shots on goal there, had a couple chances against Minnesota. He's getting 15 to 17 minutes of ice time, so he's getting the opportunity. Absolutely. Juuso Parssinen for Nashville. So not a bad game to dabble in props. Now, having said that, the total's 5.5, and Nashville's tightened the hell out of things. Tightened up the things a bunch the last 2 games. Compare 2-1 games. It's not like, in theory, this is a game you want to flood the goal scorer prop market with a ton of bets, but nevertheless, there are some value-laden options in this game. No question about that I just mentioned. All right, the New York Rangers and Seattle Kraken. Rangers minus 135 road favorites. 6 the total, shaded to the under in this game. Isn't it funny how Seattle, one of those teams that they were basically scoring 3 goals or more every single game for, I would say, 8, 9, 10 games straight, and all good things must come to an end. They've scored 2 in the last 2 games combined, following that 5-game win streak. Shut out by Minnesota 1-0, and then losing 3-2 in overtime to the Winnipeg Jets. If I'm a Seattle Kraken fan, I'm a little bit pissed off that my team's 5-2 on the road. We're trying to make this building loud and, a great atmosphere for the Kraken. And I think they're trying to do that, the fans, and yet only 3-6 for the Seattle Kraken at home this year. So definitely disappointing that they have not played better hockey in front of this Climate Pledge Arena faithful this season, but they have just not been able to do that. You got the Rangers here coming into town. They beat Arizona 4-1 on Sunday following a loss to Nashville the night before that, 2-1. I'm at the point with the Rangers where I've seen enough inconsistency in their game that minus 135 on the road is not something I'm interested in. As much as I was singing the praises of the Rangers coming into the season, as much as I think they could still come out of the Eastern Conference, just because when they have their power play rolling, they have Zibanejad, Kreider, and that Panarin and that great forward group up front, their top 6 in particular going, they can be tough. And when Igor Shesterkin's locked in, he's as good or better than any goalie going right now. But we've seen Shesterkin kind of not always on top of his game. We've seen the Rangers struggle to score goals at times. We've still seen a few breakdowns in the defensive zone at times from the New York Rangers as well. That's why they're 8-9 right now, which is kind of a disappointing record when you think about, especially when you think about the way they started. How funny is it that both of these teams, believe it or not, they're equal in the number of wins? Rangers have won 8 games. Seattle Kraken have won 8 games. You would not have expected that. So it is Seattle back-to-back losses here. They probably don't want to keep this losing streak going on the homestand. I expect Seattle to have a good effort here. Rangers starting a road trip. You'd think they're going to bring it here. But if I had to, I'd lean Rangers, but not at minus 135, not with the inconsistency I've seen from this group. Igor Shesterkin and Martin Jones, by the way, confirmed to be your starting goaltenders for this game tonight for their respective teams. As far as props go, Jimmy Vesey, I would stick with him on the top line just because, again, you're not getting him priced the way he should be, playing with Zibanejad and Kreider on the top line for the New York Rangers. That's not a bad option in terms of a value in the goal scorer prop market, in my opinion. Plus 500 in some spots to score a goal. Can't argue with that. Barclay Goodrow has moved up to the second line for the Rangers, and he has scored twice in the last 3 games, taking advantage of this opportunity, playing alongside a great playmaker like Panarin and also Vinny Trocheck on that line. And he is upwards of plus 550 to score a goal tonight for the New York Rangers. So there's a couple that are value laden. Jimmy Vesey, Barclay Goodrow for the New York Rangers. As far as Seattle goes, a lot of their goal scoring when they get it, it's been mostly from the Schwartz, Wenberg, Burakovsky, Eberle group. Matty Beniers has kind of quieted down a little bit the last few games. I mean, he has gone 5 straight games without a goal or a point for the Seattle Kraken. So it's mostly been Eberle. 3 goals in the last 3 games for Jordan Eberle for the Seattle Kraken. I think in terms of current form, he's probably the best up front right now for the Kraken in terms of offense. So that's probably the one you'd want to target if you're going to expect anyone to find the back of the net and chip in here for the Kraken tonight. All right, Arizona Coyotes, Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas minus 380 to minus 400. Home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. This is an interesting spot, interesting scheduling spot for Arizona, considering, what they're encountering here. They were out east. They were on this long road trip. New York Islanders, New Jersey, New York Rangers, out east, and you're still on the road, and now you're flying 3 time zones across to Vegas for this game. So tricky spot for Arizona. You got to adjust the body clock again from the Eastern time zone to the Pacific time zone. The one saving grace for the Coyotes is they haven't played since Sunday. All right. They've had 3 full days off. So this is not as bad a situation as it otherwise could have been for them. So, it's not a great scheduling or not the greatest scheduling or travel spot for Arizona. That being said, Vegas cooling off finally. 2 straight losses against St. Louis and then San Jose, which have suddenly stunned the hockey world the last 3 games, winning their final 3 road games against above-average competition, including a 5-2 win against Vegas on Tuesday night. So, yeah, it's been impressive to see what they've done. But for Vegas, that's 2 in a row. Can Arizona really stun them? Arizona's been a feisty out lately. There's no question. They've been battling. They haven't been this, horrendous, brutal team that people projected coming into the season, at least not in terms of their current form. They're still 4-3, winning record, Arizona, in their last 7 games. They beat Florida at home. They were able to beat Washington on the road, beat Buffalo on the road, upset the Islanders 2-0 on the road as well. They lost to a New Jersey team that can't lose right now. And then they lost to the Rangers when they were on the second of a back-to-back. Tough spot for Arizona. So even the losses, you can excuse them and say, hey, not a bad loss. Dallas, not a bad loss. New Jersey, not a bad loss. Rangers on a back-to-back, tough spot on the road. You can't really hold that against Arizona. So, there's a part of me that says, do I take the plus 330, plus 320, plus 330? That is the price we're seeing right now with Arizona here in this. Or is Vegas finally going to be getting the slap across the face and the wake-up call that they need? Was that the San Jose loss the other night? That remains to be seen. So, again, they've just been on the road for so long. It's been a tough road schedule. But the fact that, this team after 15 games is 6-9, with some of the schedules, the schedule that they've had to deal with, you still got to give them a decent amount of credit for that, no doubt. I'm definitely not interested in the Vegas side of things tonight. Logan Thompson has been confirmed, by the way, in net for the Vegas Golden Knights, who still has very good numbers. And he still had a very good season overall, 2.38 goals against, 922 save percentage. That being said, though, he has given up 3+ goals in 4 straight starts. So the shorter term current form for Thompson hasn't been nearly as good in the net for the Golden Knights here the last few games. So I definitely have a lean to Arizona just because I think, again, they're a little bit undervalued. They're playing better than a plus 320 underdog, okay? A plus 320 underdog is a team that's absolute shite as far as I'm concerned. No redeeming qualities, no compete level, no work ethic, just getting their doors blown off every night. That's what I think of with a plus 320 underdog. I don't see evidence of Arizona being a team like that the last few games. They've been in every game for the most part. The Dallas game got away from them at the end of the homestand. But other than that, 3-2 loss in overtime to Winnipeg, 3-2 loss to the Rangers, 4-2 loss to the Surging Devils, who can't be beaten right now. And then on a back-to-back against the Rangers in a tough spot, okay, they lost that game 4-1. Do you know what I mean? Plus 320 should be a price attached to a team that is just can't get out of their fucking way right now. And that's not Arizona right now at this point in time. So, yeah, to me, there's value on Arizona. But at the same time, you're also thinking, man, is this the night that Vegas just steps up and just, puts the boots to somebody, an angry team, 2 losses in a row since returning home from that perfect road trip? That's the big debate that I've got going on. Plus, I want to make sure Vejmelka's in net. I wouldn't ever take Arizona tonight with Ingram. Ingram has not been great. Vejmelka has been very good as of late for the Arizona Coyotes. New Jersey game, he gave up 4 goals. That was his high water mark the last few games, but he was brilliant on that road trip. 2 goals allowed to Washington on 36 saves. Or 34 saves, 1 goal, 32 saves against Buffalo. Shut out the Islanders, 24 save shutout for Vejmelka against them. So, you better be ready to play if you're Vegas. And I'm sure Bruce Cassidy is going to try to get the troops back on track. It wouldn't surprise me to see, him make a few line changes tonight. So keep an eye on that. You've lost 2 in a row. I could see, them shaking up the lines a little bit for this game tonight, which might give you some opportunities with some of these Vegas goal props tonight. If you see someone moving up the lineup, getting an extra opportunity, we don't know who that's going to be yet. As far as Arizona goes, there is a couple props that I'm interested in for them. One of them is definitely Lawson Krause, no question. And this Matthias Michelli is someone that is now moving up to the top line, has had 2 or more shots on goal in 4 straight games. Michelli is on the top line with Bukestad and with Krause. So those 2 top liners, I think, Krause and Michelli, might be 2 props you consider here for the Arizona Coyotes. Do you bet Phil Kessel against his old team to score a goal? That angle's in play. You have to remember that. So that might be something you consider as well. Phil Kessel, anytime goal scorer, plus 330 in some spots facing the Coyotes. You never know. Might be able to find the back of the net. So more of a prop game for me, but lean Arizona at this price, honestly, at plus 320. And I'll probably put pizza money on it if I get a Karel Vejmelka confirmation in net. All right, last game of this monster 13-game card for this Thursday night. We've got Detroit and San Jose. San Jose minus 130, home favorites, 6.5 the total. Actually 6, I should say, the total in this game. I like the over in this game. San Jose is an over machine, guys. They just keep on scoring goals. Their defense is always capable of giving them up, and it's the perfect over team, the perfect over recipe right now for the San Jose Sharks. So I like over the total here with Red Wings and Sharks. San Jose's been trending that way. What are they? 8-1-1 to the over in their last 10 games. So they have definitely been the poster child for overs lately. Team that's scoring goals in bunches, giving up goals in bunches, although that did not happen against Vegas. Holding them to 2 goals was a pretty good accomplishment. But I wouldn't say that that's not going to be something you see routinely. They also held Minnesota to 2 goals, but Minnesota's offense scuffling a little bit right now. I still think there's a below-average defensive team, and everything in the numbers point out that they are still a below-average defensive team. So I like over 6. I think the San Jose team total, I've talked about this with San Jose. Their team total, is 3.5. If you go to BetMGM, you can actually get over 3 at a pretty solid price there if you want a little extra security with the team total bet. But here's a San Jose team that in 9 straight games has scored at least 3 goals. All right, at least 3 goals for the San Jose Sharks in their last 9 games. And again, their team total over 3 minus 125 at BetMGM. So I like that a little bit as well going into this game tonight. But at the same point in time, I would rather do the full game over, and I would rather do a team total with San Jose than take minus 130 with them in this spot. Because as well as they've played these last few games, they've won 3 in a row, beating Dallas, beating Minnesota, beating Vegas at the last 3 games of that road trip. 3 above average teams as well. Give them credit, but you have that great 3-game win streak. You come back home, tricky little spot. We know San Jose long-term has struggled in these kind of situations. It kind of has you pointing toward Detroit, a Red Wings team off a loss, off 4 losses in a row, in fact. They've kind of struggled a little bit. The first 2 games of this California road trip, losses to the Kings and the Ducks. This is the final game of that road trip. And then they go to Columbus for a game Saturday night, and then they'll have a little break and return home prior to Thanksgiving when they play Nashville next Wednesday. But no, it's just right now a little bit of a tough time for the Red Wings, 0-4 at the moment. We got to close out games, the Red Wings are saying. So they're saying all the right things, but again, they're making mistakes with the puck. Even Mo Seider, it looks like he hasn't always made crisp, good puck management plays lately. And we know what happened with Bertuzzi the other night against Anaheim in overtime. That was rough, to see him just cough that puck up right in front of the net like he did. So, yeah, it's definitely not great form. I'm not in a rush to take Detroit, and I'm not in a rush at all to take minus 130 with San Jose on the first home game off a very successful road trip either. So I think for me, it's attack these totals markets instead. We know San Jose's been an over machine, over 1-1 in their last 10 games. I like over 6 here. I think the team totals were the look for the Sharks as well. Over 3 minus 125. Team that has scored at least 3 goals in 9 straight games. So that's probably where I'm going to go with this Red Wings and Sharks game. As far as the goaltending tonight, it was Ville Husso in net against Anaheim. I still stand by the fact that he's been the better goalie. But lately, Derek Lalonde's been kind of going back and forth. He's been given Nedeljkovic a start. It seems like Husso doesn't start more than 2 games in a row, and then he'll go back to Nedeljkovic for 1 game. So we'll see if that's the case tonight for the Detroit Red Wings. It will be James Reimer once again in between the pipes for San Jose. As far as the props go for this game, look, we'll have to see if Jonathan Berggren, someone I mentioned in the Anaheim game the other night, he just recently got called up, made his NHL debut here with the Red Wings, and he got on the scoreboard against Anaheim, has had 4 shots on goal the last 2 games. It looks like he might be pushed down the lineup a little bit, so keep an eye on that. But he's still probably someone I'd consider here for a goal prop tonight for the Detroit Red Wings going into this game tonight. Jonathan Berggren for them. San Jose on the flip side, Barabanov, LeBanc, continue to be hardworking players night in and night out. Luke Cunnin as well, actually, has suddenly started to find a little offensive mojo. 2 goals the last 5 games from him. 2 shots on goal or more in 4 of the last 5 games. He might not be a bad under the radar player prop option as well going into this game tonight for San Jose. Obviously, you know who the big guns are, the ones that have been stirring the drink, if you will, for them offensively. Timo Meier has been on fire. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goals in the last 7 games for Timo Meier. We know Tomas Hertl is dangerous. He's had 3 goals in the last 5 games and a whopping 7 points in the last 5 games as well for the San Jose Sharks. So we know they have definitely been the 2 guys you count on. A little bit of Logan Couture as well, but especially Hertl and Meier. They are the 2 guys that really keep it going here for the San Jose Sharks offensively and are the catalysts for their ability to score goals as a team. So there's a bunch of player prop options I would look at for this game. And like I said, most interested in the over 6 as well as the team total over 3 minus 125 for the Sharks in this game. All right, there you go. That is the Thursday card. 13 games, packed with analysis, packed with an in-depth breakdown. Can't do it any better than that. Alex, thanks for toughing it out early in the show. Earlier on, I'll mention what his best bet is. For those of you on YouTube, he posted it in the chat. His best bet for this massive Thursday card. Hit that like button. 174 live viewers right now on YouTube. Hit that like button. Appreciate it very much if you're able to do that. A great show, and looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow, Alex is away, but we will have Jimmy Murphy back for his weekly spot. We're going to make it a weekly guest spot with Jimmy Murphy on the show. He'll be with us tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. Only 1 game tomorrow night, LA, Vancouver. We'll break that down, and we will also just we'll kick it around the league with Jimmy. We'll talk, a bunch of teams around the NHL, state of the league address, if you will. Talk a lot of Bruins, I'm sure, as well with Jimmy. We'll do that on the Friday show. With just 1 game, we'll be able to just shoot the shit, if you will, about all kinds of things and teams and storylines going around the NHL right now on the Ice Guys show tomorrow. So definitely looking forward to that. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. Make sure you're checking that out. It's just $10 a month to subscribe to that. The daily Ice Guys show betting card is up there every day. Power ratings, goalie charts, and tons of bonus content. and even more bonus content on the way, especially when we get into the new year. Just $10 a month, patreon.com/iceguys. All right, best bet to wrap up this show. Alex B. Smith's best bet. I'll put it on the screen right now. There it is. Pittsburgh Penguins -105 against the Minnesota Wild. That is going to be Alex's best bet for this Thursday card. And my best bet for this show, I'm El Diablo. New Jersey Devils +125 against Toronto. They are just too good to be getting that kind of price right now. I don't buy into trap. The trap is for, for mice and for cheese, those kind of traps. I don't buy into betting traps. I can give you countless examples of, I thought something was a trap and it really turned out it wasn't a trap. Baltimore against Tampa Bay in the NFL on the Thursday night a few weeks ago. Tampa was struggling, laying points. They're begging you to bet Baltimore. Baltimore won that game. But there was no trap there, none whatsoever. There's countless. TCU +7 against Texas in college football last week. People saying, what the hell is undefeated TCU doing as a best bet? Or TCU +7. What the hell is that? This TCU team undefeated. What are they doing getting 7 points against Texas? That's got to be a trap. You have to take Texas. They're trying to trap you to take TCU. No, TCU has still ended up winning the game outright and covering. So that's all I heard. Trap, trap, trap. I don't buy into traps. There's mouse traps. There's fishing traps. There's all kinds of other traps that are real, that are legitimate. Betting traps, I don't buy into them. So I've heard that too. It's got to be a trap here, New Jersey, +125. Well, if it is, sign me up. I'm falling right into it. But you got a team that's red hot right now. Toronto still can have these, how many times have we seen Toronto look great one game like they did against Pittsburgh Tuesday night and not look so good the next game? It has happened quite a bit with this Leafs team. And again, this is a value price here. This is a 13-3 hockey team. This is a 10-game win streak for the New Jersey Devils, 6-1 on the road. You can't even use that argument that, hey, they're on the road here in Toronto. Can't trust them on the road. They've only been 6-1 on the road this year. Clearly, they've shown an ability to win road games. Didn't they beat Edmonton on the road? Didn't they beat Calgary on the road? Two damn good teams from Alberta earlier this year. So, yeah, to me, this was a slam dunk choice for best bet for me on this Thursday slate. New Jersey Devils +125 against Toronto for my best bet for this Thursday card. All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. And a reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. It's a massive 13-game slate. Cash some tickets tonight on the ice, and we will talk to you again tomorrow on Friday. Jimmy Murphy joining us for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.